Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to discuss the IP address of that we're going to be using to create this backdoor and some other very interesting concepts regarding to this IP issue over here. So we need two more parameters in order to create this backdoor, which is lhost and lport. They stand for local host and local port respectively. So it means that the host, the IP address that we're going to be expecting this session to come. And L port means the port number that we are expecting this session to come as well. So this will be something like 192.168.1.1 and port will be something like 8080 or 4040 or something like that. So what is the issue? Why don't we just give the IP address and wait for connection to come over here? So there are actually more than one IP address that we can give over here. So if you have ever watched a section like this or a tutorial like this in YouTube or any other websites, most probably you would see something like local IP address is put over here. Actually, there are more than one IP address. If you go to google.com and search for what is my IP address, then you're going to get your public IP address, which is the IP address of your router, your modem. Okay, this is not the specific IP address of your current device. This is the IP address of your router. So if you go over here and say what is my IP over Google, it will give you some kind of this public IP address. I'm blurring mine so that you won't see mine, but you can just click whatever website that you want to use over here, like whatismyipaddress.com, and you will find out your own IP address. And this is your public IP address. Okay, this is the router's IP address. I'm going to explain what public means, what local means in a minute. But the problem over here is that if you give that public IP address to this backdoor, then it's not safe for you. It's not safe for the hacker, because in real life, if a hacker commits a crime, they can actually analyze the backdoor and they can see the public IP address on that backdoor so that they can try to locate the location of the hacker with that information. So hackers use other platforms, other tools in order to overcome this problem in real life. In order to be realistic, we're going to use those tools in our example as well. So I'm going to explain what a local IP is and what a public IP is with a detailed presentation to you, so it won't be some kind of vague thing in your head. So when we try to visualize how internet or how networks work, we can use this chart. So there is a router in your home and you have some kind of devices like phones and MacBooks or iMacs or computers or laptops, and they are all connected to that router because they want to go to the internet. So when they try to go to google.com, for example, they send some requests to the router and router sends some requests to the internet. They get some responses back and router forwards that responses to the related device. Okay, so this is how requests and responses work. But over here, we only have one public IP address, which is 85.100.25.149 in this case. But also we have some local IP addresses as well. So these local IP addresses are assigned by router with some kind of tools to the individual devices in your home or in your network. Okay, so what you see as 192.168.0.10.0.11.0.12 represents the local IP address of the individual devices. So router generally gets the first IP address unless it is configured otherwise, so it is 192.168.0.1. So they use this IP addresses and something other else called MAC addresses in order to circulate this information within network, in order to have this kind of communication within network. Okay, but we use public IP addresses in order to communicate with the external world. So if you guess that every individual device in this house has the same public IP address, then you're absolutely right. They have different local IP addresses, but they have only one public IP address. So if you want to get a connection from some outer world, you have to give them your public IP address, which is not safe because it's detectable, it's trackable, okay? And also, you have to do some kind of port forwarding in this case. Even if you are willing to share your information with a backdoor, then the router has to know which device it should forward their information to in order to forward the related information. For example, you hacked into the Android gave you the connection back, you got it from the router, but the router should know whether it should forward this connection to iPhone or iMac or MacBook or Kali Linux or any other device in the house. And this operation is called port forwarding. It's pretty easy to do that, but it causes some problems with some kind of internet providers. So in order to eliminate this port forwarding and in order to eliminate the safety issue that is brought us by sharing our public IP address, we're going to focus on something called tunneling. Okay, we're going to use some services and we're going to make that service port forward or forward those information to our computer, to our Kali Linux directly, so that we won't be sharing our public IP with the backdoor, with the malicious file that we are trying to create. And also we're not going to deal with the port forwarding in a router level in our own house or in our own network. So that's actually how hackers in the real world work as well. So let me show you some kind of examples regarding this local IP as well, so that you will comprehend it in a better way. So what you can do, you can open your terminal inside of Kali Linux. I'm going to open a new tab and write ifconfig, ifconfig. And what you see over here is 10.02.15 or something like that, and it's our local IP address. So I'm not going to write 10.02.15 over here. I'm going to write some other thing that I'm going to show you in a minute. But maybe you may think that what is 10.02.15? You said that 192.168, something like that. So 10.02 generally refers to NAT network IP addresses. So we're using some kind of virtual network inside of our virtual box. Remember, we are using NAT network, so we have this 10.02.15. If we use some kind of USB Wi-Fi card to connect our Kali Linux directly to our router, then we would get something like 192.168. Okay, and it doesn't even matter what kind of IP address that we have, if we have a working local network. So maybe you can see something like 172.168 as well, rather than 192. That, just don't be surprised, it's possible. And over here, as I said before, we're not going to use those information in order to create our lhost and lport, but rather we're going to use something called tunneling. But it's essential for you to understand this information so that you would understand what are we trying to do, with the tunneling service in a minute. Okay, so if you come to this point, I'm going to stop over here and continue with the tunnel services within the next lecture.